Hello, sixth graders, and welcome to today's lesson. Today we are going to learn how to read for gist, and we're going to gather evidence using our research guide. So our I can statements that we have been looking at here, the ones we're going to really focus on is I can find the gist of informational text, and I can find details relevant to my research question in an informational text. Relevant means that it relates or that it has to do with the question you're trying to answer. Irrelevant, that little IR, the prefix IR, means not relevant. So we're comparing relevant things, which are useful, they relate to our question, versus irrelevant, which means that it's good information, but it doesn't have anything to do with our question. When you're doing research, you really have to make sure that you're focusing on what is relevant and what is not. And then we're also still working on having respectful and productive discussions with your peers. Okay, here is your research journal that you're going to be using. So up top where it says topic of research, okay, this is going to be one of those three choices, either healthy habits, bullying, or reduce, reuse, recycle. Okay, so then it says right here, this is your place to gather information and summarize your findings as you complete the research project. It will serve as a portion of your mid-unit assessment and demonstrate your progress, okay, towards citing text evidence, summarizing, and conducting and doing a research project. So here's your first step. On this side of your research journal, it's going to provide specific directions and a place to collect your source information. And then on this side is where you're going to write relevant information and summarize your text. Do not just rewrite the entire text here. Only write things that are useful to prove your rule, okay? Definitions connected to what you're talking about, quotes connected to what you're talking about, or useful information pertaining to your question. So, it says, consider these two questions as you write your question. What is important about this topic? So you want your rule to be somewhat important for someone's life. And how does it contribute to improving the lives of your peers? So healthy habits, obviously being healthy, improves your life. Countering bullying improves your life. Reducing, reusing, and recycling improves your life. Think about those questions as you figure out what you're doing your research is. So then here, your research question should be where you wrote in what your group's research question was going to be. Now we get to the next part. Okay? So this is for our first text. You are going to be taking out a text from your research journal, and you are going to be following the task cards, which I'm going to show you in 1 second. So looking at just the research journal, here you're going to write the text title, the author, the source. Did reading the text make you want to revise or refine your research question? You'll do this at the end. Over here, you're going to record relevant info. You can just do it in bullet points. You don't need to do complete sentences. And then the summary of the text, you'll do there too, okay? Let's look at a task card that you'll be using. Okay, here is a research task card. So, part A, reading for gist. You're going to pair up within your team. So, it explains right here if there's an odd number, you can work in groups of 3 or someone can work on their own. In your pair, you're going to browse all of the text in your folder, skim the titles, and get a sense of what each text is mostly about. Individually, you're going to choose one text to read more thoroughly based on which you think is most likely to help you answer your research question. On your own, you're going to read the text you choose, okay? Annotate the text for the gist, one paragraph at a time. Annotating means that you underline keywords, that you circle things that seem important, that you put question marks by what things you're unsure of or words you might need to look up, that you summarize in the margin, or if you have questions you wonder, you write it out in the margin too. Record the text, title, author, and source in the left column of your researcher's notebook. Then you'll do part B, rereading for details relevant to your research question. Be sure you have 2 different colored pencils or highlighters. Underline with a colored pencil or highlight details relevant to your research question. There may not be a lot. There may only be a little bit in a whole article that is actually relevant to your question. Do not just start highlighting things you think are interesting. This is where you only do what is relevant to your question, what answers your question or pertains to it. Record the details relevant to your research question in bullet points in the right column of your researcher's notebook. And then you'll summarize the text on your researcher's notebook. So let me clarify that even though you're doing it individually, everyone should be doing the same text in your group on the same day, because that way when you get to this part, you'll be able to compare and talk about the same things. So then after you have all done that individually, you can have a discussion about what you found. And remember to be using this little rubric thing as a reminder for you on what types of stuff you should be doing during that discussion, paraphrasing, asking clarifying questions to each other, and talking about it in a way that shows that you respect other people in your group's opinions, okay? So then by the end of this, you should have a really good sense of that text and how it supports your rule. Then you have to decide whether it does support your rule and if you want to redefine your question. So you can do that. You can refocus or redefine your question, and you're going to do that on your journal entry on the left side at the bottom there. If you want to make a little change based on what you found, if all of your details that you found kind of support one thing, you can adjust your question to better fit those details. Okay? All right, go ahead and get to work.